Upfront and Outspoken with Bob Williams. If you love the Constitution,
man is not free unless government is limited.
If you love freedom,
unless government expands, liberty contracts.
If you believe in personal responsibility, if you believe America is still the greatest nation on earth, then get ready for an experience you'll never forget. This is Upfront and Outspoken. Here's your host, Bob Williams.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue.
And welcome back. This is, of course, Upfront Outspoken. I'm your host, Bob Williams. Glad to have you along with me on this Monday. Yes, this is my rant and rave day because Tuesday through Friday, we have a complete lineup of great guests going to be coming up. Tomorrow, we're going to have Scott Clark, who is in the process of starting his own low-power radio station right in Poto. On Wednesday, Walter Davis, host of Progress in the World, will be my guest. On Thursday, IQ Al-Razuli will be my guest. He'll be talking about Islam and the Quran. He'll be laying out the facts for you. And, of course, on Friday, my normal guest, Jonathan Wolfman, will be with you. So today, of course, we're going to get into our rant. And Howard Dean said it best on Meet the Press yesterday. Where the hell is the Democratic Party?
I'm joined now by Howard Dean. He's, of course, the former governor of Vermont, 2004 presidential candidate. And as DNC chair, he was tasked with rebuilding the party after its 2004 defeat. Governor Dean, it's amazing. Here we are 10 years later, your infamous 50-state strategy.
Infamous? What do you mean?
No, I say this in a
yeah, that's right.
Do you sit there and say, well, dust off the playbook, guys, and here it is?
You got to do the 50-state strategy again. The president has been brilliant at the 50-state strategy, but not so. The DNC hasn't been able to pull that back together again for a variety of reasons, not all having to do with the DNC. The biggest problem, Jim Clyburn was the most right person in that lead-up. It was message. Sure, it was an off year, and we can make all these excuses. Right. But the fact is, we have never been able to, and even through the days of the 50-state strategy and taking over the House, the Senate, and the president in 4 years when I was running the DNC, I could never get the Washington Democrats to stay on message. The Republican message was, we're not Obama. No substance whatsoever. We're not Obama. What was the Democrats' message? Oh, well, we're really not either. You cannot win if you are afraid.
Yeah, I mean, is that?
It felt like it.
Yeah.
Where the hell is the Democratic Party? So, you've got to stand for something if you want to win.
Dan Balls had I thought, a rough piece about the Democratic Party, but two things. The headline is 2 midterm elections have hollowed out the Democratic Party. And they said this about the state parties in particular. Without prominent statewide elected leaders, Democrats are in danger of seeing their state party structures atrophy.
We've been there before. We know what the solution is now.
And what is it?
It is to put money into the state parties. We do the they get to pick their own people. We do the training. We do all the intel. We get them to weave together this incredible organization that the president has done in the last 8 years for his campaigns, 2 of the best campaigns ever run in the history of American presidential politics. But you've got to strengthen the state parties. It requires discipline, accountability, but it also requires money to go to the state parties. We have to trust the state parties.
All right. Now you're going to want to know, why did I air that particular segment? The reason I aired that particular segment is because I have been getting emails. I have been getting phone calls. I had a verbal confrontation with a couple of people over the last several days since Tuesday regarding this election. Now you're saying, okay, Bob, what do you mean? What do I mean is this. I have been getting complaints, bitchings, moaning, groaning, gripes, that this was not an election about the issues, but the election of race. I have heard that race card thrown at me time and time and time again. Ladies and gentlemen, if you listened to the broadcast at the very beginning, you will have heard President Obama himself say it was not a matter of race. It was the fact that Capitol Hill could not get things done, about the stalemate. Americans are frustrated about the fact that nothing is being done. This has not have been an election regarding race. That is not what it was about. It is the fact that people here in America are frustrated. They're frustrated about immigration, minimum wage. They're frustrated about, where is the affordable health care going from here? They're frustrated about a lot of politics and a lot of policies that were up on Capitol Hill that sat there. This has not been an election of race, so I want you to get that out of your thick skulls. And if you can't, then piss on you. The reality is this is not, was not, and will not have been a loss to the Democrats because President Obama is black. It is a loss to the Democratic Party because even you heard Howard Dean himself say the message that the Democratic Party had was not heard. They did not support the president. They did not support his policies. They said, we're not the president either. Of course, the Republican Party is definitely going to come out and say, we are not the party of the president. So now, guess what? Because the Democrats even pull back from a president who has maybe 35 to 40% approval rating, they pulled back on. They didn't want to associate themselves with him. It wasn't a fact of him being black. They pulled back because of his approval ratings are probably one of the lowest in recorded history. I think the only president that had a lower rating was President Ronald Reagan. I honestly think that if memory serves me correctly, Ronald Reagan actually had a lower approval rating going into the final 2 years of his presidency than any other president. But guess what? Ronald Reagan survived, things got done, and it could happen again. This election was not about race. And I don't care who you are or what you say. Every analyst, Democrat, Republican, Independent, have all said the same thing. The reason why the Democrats lost is because their own candidates did not support the president. Fact. Point of reference. Remember Kentucky. Mitch McConnell up against Grimes. Grimes was asked specifically if she voted for President Obama. What did she do? She waffled around the issue, refused to answer the question, and said she was a Clinton Democrat. All she would have had to say is, I am a Democrat, I vote along Democrat lines, and left it at that. Left it at that. What did she do? She said, I am a Clinton Democrat. That was her mistake. How many other elections this year had the same type of response? The Democrats would not get behind the president, would not support the president, would not stand up for the president's policies, and therefore, guess what? The midterms came along and they got their ass kicked. Period. That's what happened in the midterms. So don't you dare ever bring up to me the fact that this whole election was about race. I've heard people talk about gerrymandering. I've heard people talking about all this. It's possible. I'm not going to say it's not. But, of course, that happens in every election. I mean, given it. If you're going to be running for president, you're going to want the area most suited to you. If you're running for the Senate, the House of Representatives, you're going to want voters in your district who are going to vote for you, Democrat or Republican. So, yes, we're going to see gerrymandering going on in the 2016 election just as much as it went on in the 2012 election. We're going to see it. Face it, that's politics. But this 2012 election was nothing, had absolutely nothing to do with race. It was about policy and the inability of anything to get done on Capitol Hill. I agree that the Democrats swept into the scene, they took over the Senate, they hold the House of Representatives, and they really have no clear agenda. The only agenda that we have heard is that 3 segments of the Affordable Health Care Act they want to repeal. We've heard that. Okay? But we have not heard the fact of what they're going to do about immigration. We have not heard about what they intend to do about raising the minimum wage. We have not heard any of that. If they do not raise the minimum wage, they do not act on immigration, I can tell you right now, the 2016 election rolls around, you're going to see another Democrat in the White House, and you're going to see a Democrat-controlled House and Senate. However, if the Republican Party gets on the bandwagon in support of the existing bill that's on the Senate floor regarding immigration, and they say, okay, yes, we can afford raising the minimum wage, I got news for you folks, wake up to reality, you're going to see a Republican in the White House. And when that Republican gets in there, you can bet that the affordable health care will go out the window. 9.5 million Americans, according to one consensus, are currently under the affordable health care. And if that is out the window, 9.5 million Americans will be without health care. We don't want this. I don't want people not having health care. I'm for health care. However, I'm not for the existing health care. I agree with what they're trying to do in Vermont, and that's a one pay. You pay one thing, everything's covered. Simple. Boom. I'm not for this particular health care plan. I'm getting people say, Bob, don't call it Obamacare. Call it the Affordable Health Care. All right, so I'll try. But it has President Obama's namesake on it. I am for health care. Please, I want everybody to understand this. I am for health care. However, I am not for this particular plan. I am for what they are trying to do in Vermont. A single pay system. That I am for. But in order to get there, we have to deal with what we've got. But when you tell me, when I have gotten emails, I actually got into a verbal argument with one of our own hosts right here in the Starcom radio network. He said, and I'm going to quote him, this whole election was about race. It is not, it was not, and has not been about race. You've heard all the analysts say this was not about race, not the fact that President Obama was black. This whole election was lost by the Democrats because their message wasn't heard, because they didn't have a concise message standing up behind the president. That's why you lost the election. Even your own candidates backed away from President Obama. Your own candidates refused to bring him in to potentially bring up the base to get people excited. As a campaigner, President Obama is good. He would have been good, even though his ratings are probably the lowest of any sitting president. He's still, when it comes to the campaign trail, he would have been the ideal choice to prove it. Grimes, if she would have had President Obama standing right by her, and had she admitted that, yes, I voted along party lines, guess what? She probably would have beat out Mitch McConnell. Had the Democrats stayed on message, had the Democrats supported the president and his policies, had the Democrats did that, then you would indeed have seen the Senate retained by the Democrats. And they may have even gained a few seats in the House. Not a majority, not what they would have needed, but they would have gained. Instead, what happened? They lost seats. They lost seats in the House. They lost the Senate. Now, guess what, people? Those of you who didn't vote, you have to live with what we have. You have no right to voice any upset or any discern about what is going to be coming down the pipeline because you didn't vote. So sit back, shut up, take your medicine. Those of you who did vote, and I put this in an article I recently wrote for the American Star News, is that if you voted, watch what goes on. If you don't like what is going on, make your voice heard. If you do like what is going on, make your voice heard. Those of you who voted in this past election have a voice. Those of you who did not vote, sit back, shut up. You've got nothing to say. Like I said, the Democrats lost this election because of the fact they did not stand with the president in support of his policies, in support of what he is doing or what he is trying to achieve. So you want to whine to me, fine, but don't you dare throw up the race card, because that was not the issue. That was not the issue. It was not a fact that President Obama is black. It was a fact that Capitol Hill is at a standstill. Nothing can get done. And it was not about race. It was party line all the way. Tea Partiers, once again, are already proclaiming that if we do not get what we want the government to shut down. That is not the way to run government. Obama was wrong in saying one key word, which is really upsetting me, and that is common ground. There is no such thing as common ground. Not when you are dealing with legislation. You do it by compromise. We'll pass this, Mr. President, if you allow this to go through. It won't be anything to do with affordable health care, but it could be regarding some other things. You want this to go through, Mr. President. We want this to go through. Can we find a compromise? And I'll bet you 10 to 1 odds you're going to find out. Things are going to get done. But they have to, both sides of the table or aisle have to understand, the only way anything is going to get done is compromise. If they draw that party line and they stay on that party line, it's going to be gridlocked. And I'll tell you right now, if it stays gridlocked in 2016, you're going to see another Democrat in the White House. If it doesn't, and things get done, and everybody is pretty much content with what is being seen, guess what? You're going to see a Republican in the White House. But bear that in mind. If compromise cannot be done, and everybody holds true to course, I got news for you folks. You're going to see a serious wind change in 2016. We've already heard Walker might run. Hillary Clinton might run. Elizabeth Warren says she might not run, but there's potential she will. Mitt Romney might be coming back into the scene. Jeb Bush is popping his head. So already the field is starting to narrow coming into the 2016s. But right now, let's focus on 2014 and why the Democrats lost. It wasn't race. It had nothing to do with race. It will never have anything to do with race, although there are you idiots out there, you bleeding heart, whine baby, cry baby assholes who are telling me it was race. It was not race. It was a fact that the Democrats did not stand behind the president, did not have a solid voice of his policies. That's why you lost. You could not turn out the vote. You could not turn out the votes. 2/3 of Americans stayed home because of the fact they did not believe either party. That's right. I'm not saying one party. I'm saying either party. They sat back and they cried. Cried in their spilled milk. Well, to that 2/3, guess what? You've got nothing to say for the next 2 years. Absolutely nothing. Don't go whining to your congressman. Don't go whining to your senator. Don't go whining to the president. You didn't vote, so stay out of it. But to the 1/3 that did vote, me included, I'm going to watch what happens in the next 2 years. If I like what is going on, you damn right, I'm going to tell my congressman. I'm going to tell my senator. But if the things are going wrong and nothing's getting right, I'm going to be doing that too. I'm going to be moaning, groaning, bellyaching to them, saying, get your ass out of that chair. Let's get some things done. That's the way it is, folks. Don't vote, then sit back and watch because you've got nothing to say. But if you did vote, then you have a voice. And once again, I'll reiterate the fact. The Democrats did not lose because of the race card. They lost because of frustration of the American people to the way stuff is being done on Capitol Hill. And with that, it is time for me to get out of here. Stay tuned, because coming up right after NPR News, of course, Ed Till will be with you all the way to 4 o'clock. Until tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., this is Bob Williams. Take care of yourselves.